This is Chris Sartorial. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to draft a notched collar and lapel that may be used for a dress, blouse, or jacket. We're going to start with our basic front and back bodice that I demonstrated in the first video. But you can use other blocks. You can use a blouse block or jacket. I have already traced the front on a piece of paper. And the first thing that we'll need to do is add an extension to our center front. That is, if we want this to be buttoned up to the front. If you're going to have a center zip or something, you may not need an extension. But I'm going to add 5/8 to the center front. That's for a total of 1 1/4 inch extension. Or you could do 3/4 for a total of 1 1/2 inches. Working in metric, I would probably suggest about 1.5 centimeters for a total 3 centimeter overlap. Then we need to decide our break point. Where is our lapel going to begin folding back along this edge? It can be anywhere you want it to be. I'm going to say measure up about, let's say 6 inches. And this becomes my break point. It would also be where you would add your top button. Then we need to establish how high we want our collar to roll in the back. It can be anywhere from about 1.5 to 1 inch to 1 1/4, anywhere in there. I'm going to do just a 1 inch roll. So I will extend from this corner point out 1 inch with my ruler. I'm going to angle my ruler to meet my roll point here, the break point, and draw a line. Now this is our roll line. Next thing I need to do is now I'm going to fold the pattern on this roll line. And I'm going to trace off my neckline to the other side. If you have a tracing wheel, that's what's typically used. I no longer have a cork table to pin into. So I'm just going to draw it. And I'm going to briefly use my French curve. Okay, now that we've traced our neckline to the opposite side of this fold, you can see where your collar and lapel seam are going to extend. And here's where we simply want to draft our lapel. It can be as wide or narrow as you want. I'm just going to eyeball one. And then the seam for where your collar joins your lapel needs to match up with this point where your neckline meets the fold. So I'm going to draw a line connecting that point to my lapel line. Again, it can be a little lower or higher. And then I'm going to draw a notch in here. I'm going to make the notch width 1¼ inches. And I'm just gonna eyeball this for now because I'm just demonstrating. And there is a notch for my collar. Now, of course, your lapel notch can be notched like this one. It can be rounded, it can be peaked, anything that you, the designer, are conceiving. Now I need to start tracing my actual collar. I'm going to mark a point about 3/8 of an inch, or about 1 centimeter, out from this neck point here. And I'm going to use my ruler, and where this point meets flush with your neck, I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to extend it outward, like so. Now I need to measure the back neck. And I've measured this, and this back neck measures 3 3/8 inches. So I'm going to measure from this point out 3 3/8. I don't have a lot of room here. There. Then I'm going to come down about 1/4 inch, or about 1/2 centimeter. It's because I want to give a little curve to the back of this neck. I'm going to take my French curve and just give it a very slight curve here. I'm going to square a line from this point. I think I've got enough paper here. And this will be the center back of my collar. Now we need to decide how wide our collar is going to be. I said that the collar is going to have a 1-inch roll, so that means the collar has got to be 1 inch plus another inch back down, and then at least another 1/4 inch to cover my center back, my back neck seam. So for a 1-inch roll, your collar should be 2 1/4 to 2 3/8 inches. I think I've got another 1/8 there just to be on the safe side. So then I'm going to mark that same distance from my neck going down. Then I can take my French curve and I'm going to blend that to my notch point. And this notch here matches up with our shoulder. And I can now fold this along the roll line again, and I want to trace off the lapel shape to this opposite side. So I'll need to take another piece of paper and trace off my collar. Okay, I've traced off my collar. This will be the under collar, and of course this will be on the fold here. And then the remainder of this, cutting away, this will be my front with the lapel. So now I'm going to cut this out and sew up a tryout. Now here is our test tryout for our collar and lapel. You want to double check, of course, that the lapel and notch are the shape that you and the width that you like. You also want to check the roll of the collar. It should cover the center of the back neck seam by about 1/4 inch. You should also have a little bit of extra room back here because this is only a single layer and you'll be adding a top and under collar, so it's going to get a little bulkier around here, so you should have some ease. It shouldn't roll down too far. If it does, then you'll need to take some of the curve out of your collar, back of your collar. Now if it doesn't, if it comes up high and doesn't cover your center by your back seam, then you'll want to slash and spread and put more curve in the back of your collar. But always test your collar and lapel before drafting your top collar, which we'll do now. Now that I'm happy with the shape of my under collar, as you can see, I've transferred it to some craft paper and unfolded it. I've put a double notch at the center back so I know that this is the under collar. The under collar can be cut on the straight grain or the bias. Now I need to make my top collar. There are a couple ways you can do that. I've gone ahead and traced the under collar off on this folded craft paper. You can simply add 1/8 inch or about 2 centimeters all around this outer edge and then taper to nothing at the corner where it sews to the front neck. What I prefer to do is I'm going to mark 1/8 inch here, take my under collar, hold it at this point and rotate. Trace this off to my new 1/8 inch mark. So that gives me an extra 1/8 inch in width at the center back that tapers to nothing. I also need a little 1/8 inch extra at the point to keep it from curling outward. So I'm going to start at nothing here and then go out 1/8, and then from 1/8 corner point, gradually taper to nothing here. It accomplishes putting the extra fullness you need in, shall we say, the precise places that you need it, rather than simply all along the outer edge. Then I would simply cut this out with a single notch at the center back to indicate that this is my top collar. You also need to add that extra at the lapel for your front facing, again to make sure that the point doesn't curl outward. I'm going to make the front facing lapel a little bigger than the under lapel, which is the part that's attached to my front. And like I did with the collar, I'm going to start at nothing here at the notch where this sews to your collar, out to 1/8 inch at the point, and then from 1/8 tapering to nothing at the roll, at the break point. And this would be my facing. And that's pretty much all you have to do. I'm not going to demonstrate another sewn up collar as you saw that before. Try this out and I hope it works out for you well. Thanks.